Greetings, my magnificent friends. Well, because you're seeing me on the screen, you know that it's Friday. Welcome to Tea with Sue. Here we are, the last Friday of January 2021. The month has gone by so fast. So, of course, I'm here with my tea. I want to start by showing you this mug. So this mug says, and the arrow's pointing, of course, to who's ever drinking from the mug, this is what awesome looks like. Well, I wish everybody on the planet could have a mug like this because you are what awesome looks like. So I think that's pretty cool. So it's a little reminder when I drink from this mug that not only am I awesome, you are too. And let's drink in that awesomeness every day. Well, I got thinking about what we were going to talk about today, and I was reminded of a story that I heard many years ago. So this couple were on the beach in a nice sunny spot and watching the ocean waves coming in, and they were close by to a group of fishermen who had boats pulled up to the shore, and there were barrels sitting right on the beach. Well, the couple got kind of curious and wondering, well, I wonder what if there's anything in the barrels or what those barrels are for. So they wander over and they peek down inside the barrel. There was no covering on it. So they peek down inside the barrel. And at the bottom of the barrel, it's just teeming with crabs. And they're thinking, oh my goodness. And the fishermen aren't paying any attention. They're doing what they're doing, gathering their nets or repairing their boats or whatever. So they thought, well, maybe we better tell them, because they noticed that some of these crabs were getting close to the top of the barrel, and they thought they're going to lose their whole catch of the day. So they were kind of concerned about this. So they went ahead and talked to one of the fishermen and said, hey, do you realize, like, there's no lid on that barrel? Your crabs are all going to disappear. And the fisherman let out a little chuckle and he says, no, you don't understand. That's a particular breed of crab. And they said, well, how so? And he said, well, anytime, so with those particular breed of crabs, when one of their own starts climbing towards the top, before they can reach the top of the barrel and get free, the other crabs reach up and pull them back down in with the rest of the group. So it doesn't matter how many times they try, same thing happens every time. So we never worry about losing our catch because the other crabs take care of that if one wants to escape. And I got thinking about that. Well, isn't that kind of what happens in our lives? Here we are, we've been talking this month about getting our heart's desire and moving forward to whatever kind of glorious something we would like in our lives. Isn't it often the case that we put ourselves into situations where something pulls us back? We're just about free. We're just about to hit that next higher peak. And then something or somebody pulls us back to remind us that, well, actually, you're not that big. You really can't have that. Well, what would be the point of making all that effort? And we have a choice at that point. We have a choice to allow that to continue, which usually means we feel a little more suffering because we wanted this other thing and it was important to us, but we allowed ourselves to get pulled back. So it's a choice, right? Excuse me. We have free will on this planet. Last time I checked, we have free will. Now, free will means We get to live our lives exactly the way we choose. No buts, no, yeah, well, except for, no, 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 free will is free will. If we choose something and we don't like it, we get to choose again. Even if we liked it, we get to choose again. So that's the way it works. But of course, there are lots of influences in our lives that would tell us otherwise, that would say, oh, no, 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 but there are rules against you doing that. Well, it is true that some of the consequences of our choices might not be to our liking. So, for example, uh, it's not a good idea for me to choose to drive on the wrong side of the road where the oncoming traffic is, because the consequences would be disastrous. However, you do see people from time to time driving on the wrong side of the road, either by mistake, oh no, I didn't realize this was one way, or just because they made a turn and something happened, or maybe an animal crossed their path and they swerved into the oncoming traffic. So that happens, right? But if the situation is not to our liking, we get to choose again. Now, there's lots of influences. So what I want you to start thinking about today is, what is it in your life that you allow to pull you back? Are there people in your lives for whom trauma and drama is a big thing? They're just so immersed in their own misery and pain and suffering, or they're immersed in other people's pain and suffering. Oh, well, my neighbor's having this trouble, and the guy at work, and the woman at the grocery store, and they get involved in other people's pain. And of course, you know that old saying, misery loves company, right? Well, our tendency when other people are suffering is to tell other people about it. And it just seems to increase the suffering. Now, I'm not saying we don't want to feel compassion and reach out to those who are having a hard time. What I'm saying is this a pattern? Is this a behavior that, so if I allow myself to get sucked in over and over and over into somebody else's trauma and drama, there's not a lot of time or energy left for me to deal with what's most important to me, for me to get my heart's desire. So, watching the news would be a classic example. My grandmother used to call it the doom and gloom. She would watch it, but religiously every night she would watch the doom and gloom before she went to bed. And I'm going, Grandma, why do you want to fill your head with all that misery right before you go to sleep? That makes no sense to me. And as I've got more sensible about what I want to do in my life, I don't have regular TV, so I don't get the news. I figure if there's something that important going on, somebody will tell me. And sure enough, somebody usually does, because there's always people watching the news. I just choose not to be involved that much. The odd time I check in and see, well, am I missing anything really earth shaking? And usually, no, I'm not. But sometimes we get so focused on what's going on around us and in front of us, we forget to pay attention to what's going on inside of us and how that can move us forward. So we get to choose again. So it could be a media influence. So, and I have a little confession to make. I've been watching a little more TV, with it being minus 25 Celsius here in Edmonton. It's cold. And at night, I just want to cuddle under a blankie and watch TV. So I've been watching this, well, I guess you would call it a soap opera. And it's a Chinese soap opera. So of course there's subtitles on the bottom because I don't speak Chinese and I have no idea what they're saying. Well, it's filled, as every soap opera I have ever watched, it's filled with pathos and tears and drama and murder and mayhem and all kinds of things to keep you watching. And so a couple of nights, I've literally watched it till 2 in the morning. I'm going, Sue, what are you doing? Why are you watching this? You know that there's not going to be a happy ending. And for a Pollyanna who loves happy endings, I'm going, there's never a happy ending. There's always one more piece of trauma, one more piece of drama for these folks. And so why are you doing this? And well, because I am, and because I haven't chosen yet to turn it off. So I can either beat myself up, which I was sort of thinking about doing, and then I thought, well, I guess I could have a little compassion for myself and say, well, I don't really know the reason. I'm just doing it right now. And when I've had enough, then I'll do something else. So I think I've just about reached the point where I'm ready to turn that off and find an uplifting documentary or something inspiring or I'll read the kind of book that I like to read. So it's just one of those things that we look at what we're doing, and I'm highly amused by some of my choices, and I can't help but laugh and shake my head. Where I used to beat myself up, I used to be really hard on myself. What's wrong with you that you're doing that? But not anymore, because it doesn't serve, first of all. And that soft voice of compassion, that soft voice of love and peace will do a whole lot more to help me transform and move from wherever I am to wherever I want to be much easier, much faster. And I don't have so much resistance. So let's talk about resistance. So a dear friend sent me a video clip. You've probably been getting in your inbox lots of people sending jokes and sharing videos and so on. Well, this one was not only highly entertaining, but food for thought, literally. So the scenario is, this mom has been peeling onions, and she's about to cook them. So she has them all lined up. Well, her daughter, who looks to be about 3 or 4, I'm guessing maybe about 4, she looks at these onions all peeled and she says, apple. And she wants one. And her mother says, no, it's an onion. It's not an apple. And she says, apple. And she's reaching for it and she wants it. And this goes on and on to the point where her mother says, fine. And she gives her the onion. And the little girl grabs a hold of it and she takes a bite. Well, her body knows, because her body has tasted apple before, and her body knows this is not an apple. This is something different. It's bitter. It brings tears to the eyes. But this little tyke is just valiantly, stubbornly set on eating this apple, which is an onion. And you can tell that she doesn't want to give in. She doesn't want to say to her mother, ooh, what is this? I don't like this. She just keeps chewing and wiping the tears from her face. And I'm a little bit in stitches laughing about this scenario. And yet at the same time, my heart goes out to her, and my heart goes out to all of us, because I think, how many times are we stubbornly determined to cling to something that doesn't taste good, something that's bitter and causes us to suffer? You know, how many times do we do that before we say, oh yeah, you were right. That is not an apple. You told me it was an onion. Oh, okay. Oh, onions. Well, what's so fascinating about onions is in their raw state. I don't like the taste of them, honestly. And they do taste kind of bitter and strong, and the smell of them is not good. But the interesting thing is, if you cook them, you start applying a little bit of heat and, saute them gently in a pan and raise the heat a little bit. They transform into a sweet addition to any meal. So in their raw state, they're not that palatable. But then when you do something to turn up the heat of the onion, then it cooks a little bit and bubbles away and so on. And then it just transforms and it's wonderful. Well, what's that like for each of us when we look at, here we are, the raw, immersed in the raw onion of life. And all we need to do is find a way to transform that. We don't have to throw the onion out. We don't have, although sometimes we do. Sometimes it's just plain rotten and it's just got to go. But what about gently helping that onion transform? So maybe there's people in your lives that are like the onion. They're unpalatable. They're bitter. They're hard to swallow. They just, well, again, you have a choice. You can choose to keep them in their lives keep them in your life in whatever way that fits for you. Or you can just gently see if they're ready to transform and remind them, shower them with love, shower them with compassion, particularly compassion. There's a great author that's written several books, and I think his first book was called Love is Letting Go of Fear. The author's name is Gerald Jampolsky. And I love what he had to say. This question from his book has stuck in my mind for many years because I probably read this book 20 or 30 years ago. And in any situation, especially the tough situations, he says, asks the question, what would love do now? And when we focus on that, when we say, oh, can I love myself enough to ease myself out of this scenario, or to switch to a better habit, or to help this person understand that what they're telling me is not something I want to hear? That, how can we encourage our media, for example, to change it up and bring us some good news stories? It's not always about pushing the off button, which is kind of what I have a tendency to do, is to push the off button. But what if I wrote them a note and said, look, I don't appreciate all this negativity. What about the good news? And if enough of us did that, that could begin to make the shift. We still always have the choice to turn it off, but how will we choose to do that? So what I'd like you to think about over this next week, or notice most particularly, is what is it in your life right now that you're allowing to draw you back or hold you back from wherever it is that you want to go? And when you start to examine that, as you examine that, provide yourself with lots of compassion. Even if you don't know how to get out of it or how to change it, loving yourself through it is one great way of going to the next step. So you might have noticed that the name of Acorn Life Mastery has shifted to Global Strong. So they're going through change, just like everything else is going through change right now. And I love this new name, Global Strong. We want to be strong. And sometimes things get in our lives that keep us from being as strong as we want. So one of the tools that I have to offer people is the Magnificence Mentor app, which enables you to just get some daily doses of inspiration, ideas, and thoughts that will take you to the next level. It's a free subscription. You just download it free from either Google Play or iTunes. And we've just had an upgrade and an update. So there's going to be some exciting new things coming along as I work with my app and add more and more content for you, videos, articles, and e-courses. In the meantime, if you're finding yourself a little too stressed to actually move to wherever you want to go, through Global Strong, I'm offering my e-course called 3 Tools to Become Magnificently Calm. Check it out. There's some information on what's in each module. If it fits for you, then it's an e-course that you can just access once you invest in the course, and away you go. You can always reach me through the course if you have any questions about that. In the meantime, have a glorious week. Enjoy the weekend, because here we are again at the weekend. I'll look forward to having you next week on Tea with Sue. Bye for now. Oh, and remember, you are magnificent.